Hello, World History 1 students. This is Mr. Everton, and this is our second video in our unit on prehistory, all about the Paleolithic Era. And we are going to be trying to answer the question, how did humans survive during the Paleolithic Era? So please have your packet out and we'll get started. What is the Paleolithic Era? Well, last video, we talked all about how early humans evolved in East Africa, and then Homo sapiens migrated out into the rest of the world, gradually displacing all the other early humans like Neanderthals, killing them off, and taking over the world. That all happened during the Paleolithic Era. Paleo means old, like this old man. Lithic means stone, like this rock. So Paleolithic is the old stone age, and we call it that because people during this time period made stone tools, very simple stone tools. The Paleolithic era lasted 2.5 million years, or 95% of human history. And this is all during a time period where we have no written records, so we're studying this through archaeology. Again, here's a timeline showing you the Paleolithic era in comparison to some other later ages like the Neolithic and the Bronze and Iron Ages. And you can see that the purple line that represents the Paleolithic age is vastly longer than any of the other eras. So how did people live during this time period? How did people live for 95% of human history? You can see in this illustration, which, this is some artist's illustration. This isn't a photograph or anything. But you can see you've got some people fishing, and you've got some people cleaning the fish. You've got somebody has killed some sort of yak-looking thing. And you can see that they have some temporary-looking structures. Those are not permanent buildings that those people are living in. Those are structures that can provide shelter, but they can also be taken down and transported. So in this picture, you see Paleolithic people are using the environment. They're harvesting resources to meet their needs, and they also have temporary shelters because they are nomadic. Here you can see a photograph of some modern day people who are nomadic, who live in the same traditional lifestyle of Paleolithic people. And a nomadic person wanders from place to place. Why do they do this? Because they are looking for sources of food and other resources that they need. Paleolithic people were hunters. They hunted animals in order to get the meat that they needed, in order to get the fur from the animals and other parts of the animal's body that they could use to meet their needs. Paleolithic people were also gatherers. They gathered wild plants, berries, and other roots and vegetables that they could gather from the wild and eat. And typically, hunting and gathering was a full-time job. Everybody in the community would gather food, and everybody in the community would help to hunt food. And people, by and large, were able to get the amount of food that they needed, but it kept the population fairly stable. During this time period, the population never really probably got above 8 million people on the entire planet. And early hunter-gatherers in the Paleolithic era lived in clans. That was the name of the group that people lived in, and that wandered the earth looking for food. And these clans were relatively small because they weren't organized enough to go above maybe 30 to 50 people. They didn't have any form of writing, so basically they were talking to each other. And when they got above 50 people, typically a clan would split, and one leader would take one clan in one direction, and another leader would take the other half of the clan in another direction, and then those clans would grow. So I want to talk about the kinds of technology that were used during the Paleolithic era to help early humans survive. And one we've already talked about, which is stone tools. Now that might, on the right, just look like a rock to you, but that is actually what is called a hand axe. And it was very carefully crafted by Paleolithic hunter-gatherers in order to chip it just the right way to make it sharp and durable, and a tool that can be used to cut through an animal's carcass or to cut up a wild plant. Early humans also developed simple weapons, simpler weapons than what you've seen here. Those hand axes could be used as weapons. And then early humans also developed oral language. For example, Chuck might be about to hurt himself on that arrow, and he needs a friend to be able to say, "Careful, Chuck. Those are sharp." So oral language is saving Chuck from pricking his finger on this arrow. And actually, to be serious, oral language was very important. It allowed for collective learning. It allowed for clans to pass information from one person to the other, from one clan to another, so that people could communicate where the good food was at. Also, early humans began to use fire during the Paleolithic era because they knew that fire could keep away wild animals, that it could keep them warm, and it could help them to cook their food and allow them to eat a wider variety of plants and animals through cooking. And finally, early humans developed culture. They began to express themselves through cave art. We don't have a whole lot of information, it's kind of a mystery a little bit why they did this, but early humans went deep into caves and used natural resources to paint beautiful, epic paintings on the walls of caves like this one in Lascaux, France. And by looking at these cave paintings, archaeologists are able to get an understanding of early human life during this era. And we're also able to have respect for the kinds of things that humans were able to do even at this early date in their history. So, to summarize, the Paleolithic era took 95% of human history. It was a period where people were nomadic. They wandered the earth hunting and gathering food, and they developed early technologies like stone tools and fire in order to help themselves survive. And remember, if you're not answering the AIM question, that's a bunch of bull. Make sure that you write 3 to 4 complete sentences. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.